Hi everyone, this is Venus Brown. Today I'll be doing a discussion and review for Handmaid's Tale episode 8 called Motherland. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications. We start the episode at June's house. They've got everybody over. Everyone's talking about how annoying Serena is. She's called yet again, and they're like, she just keeps calling me incessantly, and I ignore it. But then Luke goes on about how he doesn't understand why June has been supporting Serena at all. With all the shit that Serena has done and how terrible she's been. And June is like, it isn't about Serena. It's about the baby. I didn't want to leave that baby to die in the woods, which makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of scenes after that concerning Lawrence's idea for New Bethlehem and him trying to convince June to come to New Bethlehem. And while his idea is a start, and he talks to Nick about how he wants to make all these different changes and he's hoping that it will make significant difference in the end, I still feel like it's a bit of a gimmick. We're gonna make this fancy new nice little neighborhood where the Gilead runaways and the Gilead who have family members of the runaways can still be together, don't have to follow all the same rules as Gilead, but can have a nice life together. And it sounds really nice, but there's always these alarm bells going off in my head about stuff like this. It really does look gimmicky. And the more that Lawrence talks about this, the more I worry that as soon as he's out of the picture, somebody else is going to come in, and that place will be used to destroy those people that are in it. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's how I feel about it. I don't think it's going to improve the future of Gilead enough to freaking wash out the shit that they've done, or even to make it a modicum of civility compared to some of the other nations in the world that seem to have gotten along without Gilead regulations, without an authoritarian despot in charge, without taking the rights of all their people. Sure, there's plenty of countries that did, and there's plenty of countries in real life that do, but there's also plenty of them that didn't in the show and that don't in real life. Either way, at one point he's talking to June, trying to convince her, and he has this talk with her. He says that late-term capitalism and rampant consumerism caused this precipitous decline in the birth rate, all these toxins in the environment. I mean, he didn't exactly say that, but I think that's the implication. You have all these toxins in the environment. You have capitalism and consumerism basically eating the human race alive, poisoning it, making it less likely to have healthy babies, making it more likely that people will work to improve their economic life rather than necessarily their family life. And so they might postpone their family longer, which even today puts women in a position where their children are more likely to have downs. They're less likely to get pregnant. It is harder to get pregnant. There's all kinds of things that can happen the later that you wait in life. But people should still have the right to freaking decide that stuff themselves, not have their government decide it for them. And that's what Gilead is. Gilead's making those decisions for you and not giving you any right to make those choices yourself. And I think that's just stupid. But another thing that he says is that he used religious nut jobs as a delivery system to get the kind of changes that he thought needed to occur in order for the health of humanity to get better. But he says something on this part and he says something in other parts that really hit the head on the nail as to why you can't use religion as a way to combat these things. He said that it ran away, it got away from me, it went septic. And he said that he underestimated the religious nut job's depravity. And I wish, as the smart person he obviously already was when he came up with this plan, that he would have had the common sense to know that there are plenty of nations that have used religious extremes in order to gain control over their masses, but also ended up in really horrible situations with crimes against humanity that nobody should really willingly want to put up with. Killing women and children, taking people's rights away from them, forcing people to get pregnant, forcing rapes, taking any rights away from women so that they have no ability to really protect and defend themselves, doing the same thing to children, doing the same thing to those that are not well off. And that's my biggest concern. As long as he's using these extremist religious zealots to sell any system, you're going to still have these issues. Even in countries where they manage to improve things, what happens? After a while, some other despot comes in and freaking takes over again, and shit gets just as bad as it was before. I feel like even if he were to make some changes and things were to start to improve, that in the end it wouldn't matter. Somebody would come in, take over, and they would ruin the whole thing. And they would be back to the same kind of awful, terrible shit that they are doing now. So another thing that we see in the show, this episode, is several times where June and Luke are divided. They're arguing, they're fighting with each other, just not on the same page, not in agreement. June feeling like Luke doesn't understand her, and Luke feeling like they're never going to be enough for June. And Luke wanting to be June's protector, when June is just, she has been through enough that she doesn't need his protection. She needs him to be supportive and try to be understanding, try to reach her where she has been, try to understand what she has gone through as much as he can, but not try to enforce his position on her, not try to insist that he defend her. I know he wants to be a man, but he is not built that way at this time. He has not been through the kind of things that June has been at this time to put himself in a good position where he can be like that with her. She is very adept at taking care of herself. She may not do it in smart ways all the time, but she can freaking defend herself. She knows how to take care of herself in that respect. Mental health wise, no, but she's going through trying to deal with all this trauma that she has to freaking try to figure out how to get through, how to come out a little more healthy on the other side, and how to not let that past trauma eat her alive. We have a handful of scenes where Serena's in the detention center and she is getting visits from Mrs. Wheeler, from Lawrence, and from June. And I'm not even going to go into the Mrs. Wheeler stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about the breastfeeding stuff on the next discussion for episode 9. I do want to talk about Lawrence's discussion and June's discussion with Serena. I think Lawrence talked to her twice and June talked to her once. So I'll start with Lawrence. He goes to talk to Serena and she's asking what he's doing to try to get her out, and he's insisting that he is trying to get her out of there. And she's going on about all this terrible stuff that the Wheelers were doing. He explains that she's going to need to go back to the Wheelers, stay in the room that she was in previously. Eventually explains that she'll basically be there just to pump milk for the baby and to breastfeed the baby, but that's it. And Serena makes these comments about them treating her like a handmaid and her not being a handmaid, and how she can't go and live with the kidnappers of her children. The first comment she makes, he's like, "Do you have an irony deficiency?" And I thought that was just spot on and hilarious. Sometimes I really love Lawrence's humor. I think the second time he does let her know, like, no, you're gonna have to go back to the Wheelers. You're getting out. You get to breastfeed, and that's it. You played your hand, and these are the consequences. Right now, you don't have any other rights. Gilead ain't gonna take you back. You're frankly not supposed to be anywhere outside of Gilead property. Then June comes to talk to her, and Serena has this idea that she has forgiven her. Like, because of what June did to help her with the delivery, help get her to the hospital so she doesn't die, so her baby doesn't die, and so hopefully she can actually be with her kid, that meant that June forgave her. And June's like, no, I can't forgive you for all the awful, horrible shit that you did. And frankly, it wasn't that long ago that she was still manipulating June with other shit. So the idea that June would just up and forgive her right now, honestly, I feel like forgiveness should be for the person doing the forgiving, not for the person that is being forgiven. It helps to lift some weight and stress off of your shoulders. But I also think you can't do it until you are really ready to let that stuff go. And forgiveness is not so that you can be all buddy buddy with the person again. Forgiveness is just so that you can lift that weight from your shoulders and stop letting it take over your life. Either way, Serena insists, like, you helped me, you saved my life. And June comes up with like another great line. I turned the other cheek. It looks like I turned out to be the better Christian in this situation. But I've always seen all these Gilead people, for the most part, as horrible Christians. Gilead Christianity, to me, is not at all real Christianity. It's like Christianity without Christ, which isn't Christianity. It's Abrahamic religion under the Abrahamic God, but it isn't Christianity, because Christianity needs the portion with Christ, saves humanity from their sins or whatever. And Gilead's Christianity doesn't have that. You never hear about Jesus or Christ or anything like that. And almost everything that they harp on is from the Old Testament. But either way, in this talk with June, Serena starts asking June how she's supposed to go into the house of another woman who is trying to take her kid away from her. And it's just another example of that, like, Serena's irony deficiency. I just loved that line. I really did. It's so perfectly aligned with this reality. Like, Serena is faced head on with the mess that she has put others through, and she still doesn't get it. She still doesn't see herself in it. She still doesn't see how she can be in that same situation. But she sees how it's wrong for her. She sees that it's wrong for others enough to ask June, how the hell did you put up with it when I was the one doing this to you? But then, is that the furthest she's going to be able to go? Is Serena not going to be able to dig any deeper than that? That she can see that it's wrong when it's her, but not enough to where she's really willing to do anything, and not enough to see how this really is you in this situation now, and that you are the handmaid. Even though you're not going through the same stuff, it's still a similar thing. Yet Serena still maintains this separation, that I'm not a handmaid, but they're treating me like a handmaid. Still, she does ask June, how did you put up with this when you were in this situation with me? How do I do this? And June is like, you go back in there. You play the part of the handmaid. You do what you need to do. And in the meantime, you plot your revenge against them. And Serena's like, is that what you did with me? Look at what happened to Fred. Look at you now. Like, I know that not all of that is directly from June. But June, I think for a long time, had always been plotting, trying to find ways, any ways that she could, to do whatever she could, mostly to get back to Hannah, to try to get Hannah out of there, but also to escape and also to get back at them. One of the things I want to kind of point out is that the name of the episode is Motherland. And so we see these themes concerning motherhood, with Serena trying to get back to her child, dealing with a person who's taken her child who doesn't seem to have a good understanding of how to take good care of an infant, who's making judgments about her poor ability to be a mother. You have June with this inner struggle, trying to figure out, do I stay here, try to work with the American government, who hasn't managed to get anything really accomplished the whole time that we've been working with them? Do I leave, go to this new Bethlehem just so that I can be a little bit closer to Hannah, so that maybe I can provide a little more protection, or maybe I might have a chance to plot some more in order to find a way to get her the fuck out of there? Because I do think at least there's that. If they were living in New Bethlehem together, they might have a better opportunity to be plotting while people aren't paying attention, with people that do want to get out of there, in order to find a freaking plan to really get her out of there completely. Also, like I said in my reaction, I could easily see, as soon as Lawrence and Nick aren't in the picture anymore, somebody else taking over, filling the vacuum, that would be like the first place they would bomb, to get rid of all those people that they see as defectors. One of the other things that we see, both in this episode and in the next episode, is this reality that Lawrence seems to really having to face his demons. He's got a lot of underlying guilt of the massive part that he has played in Gilead, the destruction that it has caused on the lives of so many people that he doesn't even know, lives of June and her family, and the life of the woman that he loved very much, that caused her to kill herself. So we're definitely seeing a lot of this, his trying to use Bethlehem and these other changes he's making as some kind of amends for the horrible shit that he's done, thinking that this might be a way to make things better, that after a given amount of time, that things might be good enough that they could spread these kind of changes throughout Gilead and make up for some of the horrific shit that he has caused. And Lawrence keeps trying to convince June that this is what she should be doing. June goes back and forth. You can see with the comments and questions that she's asking other people, the stuff she says to Serena, stuff she says as she's getting ready to leave, that she would go back, that she should go back. And that was after she had made the comment to Serena that Serena can't help her baby when she's not with them. And so I think she associated that same comment with her own situation, that she feels like she has to go back. Plus, she had the other conversation with Rita, where she was asking, like, what would you do? And Rita's like, I wouldn't go there, no, but I don't have a kid. And so then June injects that question. What if your son was still alive? And she's like, so if my son somehow were still alive on this planet, I would go to the ends of the earth. I would do anything that I could to get back to him. So you see these different situations where June is really like fighting with herself and really trying to figure this out, really trying to make the best decision for her and her heart and soul, for her child that is left in Gilead. And she is getting these messages from people, but she's still not completely convinced. And one of the times while she's talking to Lawrence, this still doesn't fix everything in Gilead. My daughter is still there. She is still getting prepped to be a child bride. He like pounds on the desk and said, but it won't be that way for Nicole. But it wasn't going to be that way for Nicole anyway. They've gotten Nicole out, and I think Nicole is fairly well safe from being brought back into Gilead. People that think that somehow Hannah is in a okay, yeah, she is privileged because she has a high up commander as a father. But his privilege does not ensure that she doesn't end up married off to some horrible person. It does not ensure that she does not get raped multiple times. It doesn't ensure any of that. And that is what June is trying to save her child from right now. The reality that they have her in a wives' school really, really makes it like a dire situation where, yes, Nicole is safe and protected in this refugee place in Canada, while Hannah may be protected in Gilead, but she is going to be married off against her will in an arranged marriage that Lawrence says as though that's somehow an okay thing. Like, no, her being in an arranged marriage is not okay. And in this disagreement between June and Lawrence about the reality that Hannah is still going to be there, that Hannah is going to be married off, June's like, so then do something about it. And he's like, that's what New Bethlehem is. He said that New Bethlehem is how you wrestle a better future out of an unchanging past. We do see that Serena gets her pseudo-freedom. It's not real freedom, but she's at least released from the detention center. She goes back to the Wheeler's house. It's not her favorite thing, but like June said, you go back in there, you play the part of the handmaid, but the entire time you plot your revenge. Now, I don't know if or what Serena was doing to plot revenge, but she was at least plotting a way to get the hell out of there. See the interaction between Serena and Mrs. Wheeler when she first comes in, the comments that Mrs. Wheeler makes about possibly not being fit to be a mother ever, and Serena trying to push that maybe she will someday, but not trying to push the envelope too much to piss the lady off too much. Really trying to hold her tongue, and you see her fists clenched together. But then she hears the baby crying and she goes running up the stairs and she finally gets to be reunited with the baby. We see the servant hand the baby over and she seems to really be on Serena's side and have an understanding that this is your child. And I feel like the servant understands that what the Wheelers are doing is wrong. There's only so much that you can take in from the little teeny bit of time that they've given us with them. The last scene, we see June getting frustrated and she tells Moira that she is going to go for a walk. And they're in the middle of eating, and Moira points out, "You're eating?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And she's like, "You continue eating. I'll go to the store and I'll get some apples for Nicole because Nicole needs some apples." She was obviously just trying to make up some reason to get out of the house. I think she was still struggling with what she should do and with the fact that things were not going the way she wanted to, that Luke was not on her side. She wasn't sure exactly what she should do or what she wanted to do. And so she needed to get out of there to, clear her mind, figure things out, try to decide what her next step would be. So she goes to the store to pick up some apples, and as she's there, she gets a call from Tuello, who proceeds to tell her that they found Hannah, that they have something in motion. They're trying to get everything together to figure out exactly how they're going to proceed, but they found her. Which completely changes how June is feeling, and I think she maybe takes the news a little too joyfully. Just seems to assume that this is it. They're going to go get Hannah. They're going to bring her back and everything will be okay. But stuff like that frequently goes wrong. It doesn't always work. And even military actions that have been planned out for long periods of time sometimes do not go as planned. There are all sorts of things that can go wrong, that can alter what is going to happen and can make those plans just not go the way that they were supposed to. Before she leaves, she starts trying to put these apples back because she's not going to buy them because she's too freaking excited and she's got to go give everybody the good news. And so she's putting the apples back and they're falling and she's trying to get them back up there. And the person that works there comes over to help her and she's apologizing the whole time and he's trying to tell her it's okay, that he'll get it and it's fine, but she keeps trying to put them back up there. And then she stands up and gives him a hug, and he's like, what the heck is going on? But it was still kind of cute. And she runs back home, just, you know, this exuberant, really happy running and smiling at the same time, which is nice because we don't really get to see June like that very often. So it was nice to see that kind of joy in her face. And then she gets home, she tells them the news. I think she was a little too excited and maybe putting in some words that were not actually said because she's just assuming Hannah was found. They're going to raid the school. They're going to bring her back home. And I'm like, that's not exactly what he said, but okay. And they're all smiling and they're jumping up and down and it all looks so happy. And I'm like, this is Handmaid's Tale. And there is no way that this is going. It's nice to see you jumping around and smiling and being excited that this is good news, but I don't know that it's that good a news. And it definitely gave me that feeling like something is gonna happen. This is not going to work. Now, I did hear other people saying they thought they would bomb the school and stuff like that. I had no inclination that they would do anything like that. That's just not my thought process on the matter. I didn't think it would work. I have been in the military and I know there are plenty of plans and programs that we put into place while we're in the military, and we go out to make certain things happen, and very frequently things do not go to plan, things do not go as we intended, and stuff has to be changed on the fly. Sometimes things don't work at all. Sometimes you start something and you end up having to stop before you ever really got it started. So I'm not very hopeful, but I'll try to keep hope. I just don't think it's really going to happen. And even if it does happen, I don't think they're going to get Hannah. Maybe they'll get there and they'll be able to get some of the girls out, but they won't be able to get Hannah out. That was my initial thought, is maybe they can get some of them out, but they won't be able to get Hannah out. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, y'all. That's all I got for you. Bye. Until next time, I'll see you when I see you. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications.